New tonight, we've been telling you about the huge deficit the state is facing in the hundreds of millions of dollars. The governor today announcing the first round of cuts, and they will hit hard.
The governor has the power to make some cuts without legislative approval, and that's what he has done now, cutting $78 million from the budget, and more cuts are coming. The state needs to close a $220 million deficit before June. Hit with multi-million-dollar cuts include the Departments of Children and Families, Social Services, Developmental Services, Mental Health and Addiction Services, and state schools. News 8's Bob Wilson is looking at the numbers tonight. He's live in Hartford with more. Bob?
Yeah, Darren, those agencies you just talked about, they had the biggest budgets, so they took a little bit bigger of a hit. But across the board, it was tiny slashes or smaller slashes across the state agencies, across the different projects to kind of ease the pain and take the sting out of it. However, some people, when they hear education, are thinking, don't cut here.
As students walk across the campus at CCSU, on the list of the $78 million in proposed cuts, $1.6 million to Connecticut State University. Senior Frankie Petricone wondering, will tuition go up?
Students like myself, if they were to raise the tuition here at school, I think that a lot of students wouldn't be able to afford it.
But overall, will the $1.6 million be felt when it's spread out over the campuses around Connecticut? It's just a couple of $100,000 in tens of millions being spent on education in the state. And that's the governor's plan, to make small cuts across the board.
And so people look at where we're taking from, they say, oh, don't do it there. Well, you know what? We're asking our agencies to go in there and really redesign what they're doing.
And the governor's office has said it once, they've said it again. They say you can't spend what you don't have, and nobody likes to make cuts. But they say the cuts are important. They're a step in the right direction towards that $220 million deficit that they have to cure by the end of May. And they say they're also looking ahead to next year's budget.
The legislature and the governor will be working at that to making sure that we have a balanced budget for next year.
Professor Eric Chen teaches business at the University of St. Joseph. He says the governor is stepping up and taking the lead, but ultimately it will be up to lawmakers to decide how to overcome the $220 million shortfall.
Anybody calling for cuts is going to be very unpopular. Okay, but the reality is that you have to balance your budget. How are you going to do it? So there is a process. I think people are going to have to come to the table. They're going to have to talk about their priorities and needs.
And the governor has started the process, stepping up, saying this is where we can begin, but now lawmakers have to get together, figure out how to finish it and close the gap. I'm Bob Wilson reporting live, News 8.